when a silver two-door car would pull up next to them. Someone leaned out the window, opening fire, hitting Dale several times. This was a brutal and senseless slaying, but even more brutal was the fact that in the aftermath, someone would take a graphic picture of Dale's body laying on the sidewalk. However, when police would come to investigate the reports of shots fired, they couldn't see Doc laying there in the tall weeds and leave him there. And it wasn't until Doc's relative, a teenage boy named Modell McCamry, would go through that empty lot on his way home hours later that he would actually stumble upon Doc's body as Boss Trell from STL, who had been shot once in the back of the head and was found dead in a gangway with a Glock handgun tucked underneath his body. Only a few hours before being found, Boss Trell had made a tweet stating that he was going back to sleep. So if he was going back to bed, how did he end up shot outside next to houses that he seemingly had no connection to?
Don't let me find out this nigga T.Roy and Vaughn popped out the cut, killed Boss Trell, took his phone and tweeted on his phone telling him I'm finna go back to sleep.
Images would even circulate of a photo that T.Roy shared showing his Timberland boots covered in blood, with the implication that the blood may well have belonged to Boss Trell.
What the f? Bro, this nigga posted a picture in some bloody Timbs after he killed Boss Trell? What the f?
These exotic boys, smoke exotic ops. You ain't heard about murder boys, we got exotic glocks. Tied to pull up real fast, with a lot of shots. Bitch, I'm feeling just like Mac, I got a lot of guap.
What up, Mula gang? It's your boy Mac Mula, aka Mr. Mula Mac, and I'm back with another video. Y'all know how we rockin', man. Clout stocking. Keep the cushion in my pocket, man. Listen, check it out on Modell. Hey, that boy Trap Lord Ross, the same nigga who made the documentary about King Von, he just dropped a documentary about T.Roy. Troy. On Modell. So y'all know Troy was the nigga. He was, you know what I'm saying? Listen, niggas been hearing Troy name. Even when I was young, I was hearing Troy name just ringing in the streets. Like, he was the real savage on Modell. Like, I think damn near Bond was turned into a savage because of T.Roy. So we finna find out. Let's get what's going on. All speculation, because this, at the end of the day, this nigga is from London on Modell.
Bells as loudly as T.Roy. This is largely due to some of the biggest and most influential drill rappers ever, like Chief Keef, Lil Durk, King Von, Rondo No. 9, and others, commonly mentioning him in their songs. Often rapping about this
T.Roy, he was little as too.
Stood at only 5'2", carrying guns and not being afraid to use
them. He was 5'2"?
Side Savage, who stood at only 5'2",
I didn't know he was 5'2",
carrying
though.
guns and not being afraid to use them, essentially being one of their most admired.
Wait, what they say?
Only
That's that. This that. This that. Y'all don't even know about this mixtape. T.Roy got a gun that's bigger than him, and he gonna blow that off by himself. He don't miss. He gonna leave that right.
Not being afraid to use them, song. Essentially being one of them. I'm
cooling in a trap, getting high for no reason. T.Roy got a strap, he gonna blast for no reason. I remember these songs. This song.
T.Roy, real name James Johnson, got his nickname from his second name, Troy, which is appropriately derived from the old Irish word meaning foot soldier, someone who's really in the field during wartime. T.Roy was born and raised in the infamous Parkway Gardens apartment complex, better known nowadays as O Block. Block's located on the south side of Chicago, on the border of Woodlawn, more specifically West Woodlawn and Washington Park neighborhoods. But O Block is not only an apartment complex with almost 700 units, but it's also the name of an alleged gang that resides there. A gang most recently made famous by 6 members who were convicted of the murder of rapper FBG Duck, who allegedly belonged to the rival gang STL on nearby St. Lawrence and 63rd. T.Roy himself was an alleged member of the O Block.
That nigga fingers was towed up from the floor up.
T.Roy,
that nigga fingers was towed up from the floor up. Oh, bro.
Was an alleged member of the O Block set, a street gang who pledge allegiance to the Historical's Black Disciples gang, founded by legendary Chicago gangster David Barksdale. T.Roy himself had 2 brothers, who were known on the streets as HK and Slutty. Both of those brothers have since tragically passed away, but their mother would also raise 3 other cousins as her own.
Slutty is the one that died. I don't remember his other. I don't know his other brother, but Slutty is the one that died. I think the same night Bond died. Slutty has helped me get weed before, so shout out to Slutty. Rest in peace to Slutty. Slutty used to help me get weed when I used to come through the block. I knew a nigga from O Block that used to go to the church, New Beginnings, right next door. So I met him through there, and every time I would come, he would point me in the right direction to get that smoke off of there. So rest in peace, Slutty.
Passed away.
And that was T.Roy brother.
Raised 3 other cousins as her own, Zelmuna, Eli, and Maria, with the first of these, Zelmuna, now also dead, taking his own life after being identified as a shooter in the of FBG Duck too. But the story of T.Roy could very well be its own video. But for T.Roy, growing up on the south side of Chicago, he would become accustomed to death at a very early age. In 2009, he would seemingly be strongly impacted by the tragic death of a young woman from Parkway Gardens called Keita, who seemingly died from natural causes. But clearly this woman had a huge impact on T.Roy, who even went on to name his own Facebook account after her. But this was also a time when youths like T.Roy were beginning to truly experience the violence taking place in the streets of Chicago.
Pause. Listen, I have a mentorship called the Mula membership where I'm going to teach you how to get rich with business, YouTube, crypto, stocks, financial literacy, credit, every single way. Now, I became a millionaire by the time I was 23 years old. I'm going to teach you step by step for only $50. Click the first link in the description right now and get added to my group chat where I'm going to give you one-on-one help to make sure you get rich in 2024. Click it right now. Stop tweaking because we got very limited spots and I don't want you to miss this bag.
In 2011, O Block would end up losing two important members to gang violence, OD
2011.
and Toon. The first of these, OD Perry, was the very person whom the gang O Block would take their name from, with Parkway Gardens formerly being known in the streets as Wick City, but after OD's death, the gangsters there would proudly call themselves O Block. Undoubtedly, these deaths played a major role in making a young T.Roy become increasingly active in the streets.
Yeah.
Not long after this, he would allegedly begin his years-long revenge campaign, dishing out deadly opposition of O Block, with T.Roy ultimately getting.
He bought the head caught 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I heard he had more than that though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? Make sure I ain't hot. Tweak it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I bet. But that ain't. Oh no, that's what you call it.
Campaign dishing out deadly violence towards the opposition of O Block, with T.Roy ultimately gaining a reputation as one of Chicago Drill's most savage shooters, all of which without ever rapping a single bar.
Yeah, he was known, boy. He was a known savage early.
Squad only, Glock boys. Gage, GDK, squad, big boss all up T. My nigga over our booby. Go find.
T.Roy's first body. Damn.
On the 3rd of December 2011, at around 3:45 p.m, a young man named Dale Fisher,
2011 is when it was start juking though.
Friend to the corner store near 62nd and St. Lawrence, when a silver two-door car would pull up next to them. Someone leaned out the window, opening fire, hitting Dale several times. This was a brutal and senseless slaying, but even more brutal was the fact that in the aftermath, someone would take a graphic picture of Dale's body laying on the sidewalk. It's moments like this that really drive home just how dark life in the Chicago streets can be. After the shooting, and after being pictured on the ground, Dale was taken to the Stroger Hospital, where he was pronounced dead about half an hour later. Police would report claims that Dale was shot a total of 12 times.
12 times? Nigga shot
family, he wasn't really a gang member and would rather spend time at a youth center than on the streets. Dale's family had actually moved away from the Washington Park and Woodlawn area to the Chapman neighborhood about 3 miles south.
But see, when you say he wasn't a gang member, but he in pictures dropping gang signs, like dropping real Chicago gang signs, and you feel me, if he had association with that niggas, they will still kill you, bro. You get what I'm saying? They don't care nothing about none of that. You get what I'm saying? Like, on the guys, like, for example, easy shit like this. A president of a country might not be out there actually catching bodies on the front line, but if they if we at war with another country and we catch their president, what we gonna do to him? We gonna knock his off. It's the same thing in the streets, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Fortunately, Dale would still come back to his old.
So he might not have ever did nothing, but
some of whom were indeed affiliated with the sets in the area that were enemies of O Block. This included STL on St. Lawrence Avenue, and
EBT
on 64th and Jarrow City on 62nd, as well as crews within them like FYB and FBG. In the years following Dale's death, many of these people would tweet about Dale being an innocent civilian who had nothing to do with any gang rivalries in the area. However, Dale was seemingly around real gang members who had many enemies in the streets. One video of Dale, seemingly taken within a day of his murder, would even circulate online. Dale would be seen in pictures throwing up gang signs, suggesting that he himself had already been sucked into the gangbang.
You're taking pictures with a top ops. You dropping the same signs and throwing the same signs they throwing. So a nigga's not finna be, hey, is he really with that shit? Or, hey, before we do something to shorty, do he really be shooting niggas and killing? Like, they not gonna do all that. You with them niggas, you with that shit, you can get that shit. That's how people think, gang. Like,
lifestyle.
That's why you gotta be.
His connection to gangs would come from family ties.
You gotta be careful.
Dale's big brother was a known St. Lawrence member who went by the name Main Main. Main Main was even seemingly mentioned in the police reports regarding the murder of O.D. Perry, with O.D.'s mother stating that she had heard that a man called Main Main was behind O.D.'s murder. Dale's killer has never been caught, but there have been several factions and suspects who have been rumoured to have been behind this murder. For example, in 2012, rapper Billionaire Black's brother Richie Jerk would seemingly implicate the lamb set for killing Dale. But another popular suspect in the murder has been T.Roy, who belonged to the 600 set and were very close to O-Block themselves.
T.Roy posted about Platoon. Let me see. Post about Platoon killed in October. A month later, Dale got killed. If he did it, that's who he did it for. Speculation, but I get what they saying though, bro.
Belonged to the 600.
They say that was D-Roy's first body.
Themselves. However, O-Block's own T.Roy has also been suspected of being involved in Dale's murder, with the implication that this may well have been the first of as many as 10 murders that he had committed for his gang. Although some have claimed that T.Roy couldn't have been involved, as he may well have been locked up at the time of the murder. However, recently, this case received a crucial update during the recent trial relating to the murder of FBG Duck, when one of the cooperators, allegedly FBG Butter, would tell investigators that Dale had indeed been killed by T.Roy and D-Rose. While the case was never definitively solved,
T.Roy and D-Rose,
federal prosecutors to name T.Roy as a killer in paperwork speaks volumes. However, this was only the first of many rumoured murders which T.Roy was thought to have played a role in. The next one would see him allegedly being assisted by his best friend, infamous killer and rapper from O-Block, King Von.
This crazy, bro. T.Roy's second body, Doc.
About 5 months after the murder of Dale, on the 28th of April 2012,
5 months. And I want to say real quick, like, let me put that back on the screen.
On the 28th of
2011 is when start cracking for real. Like, 2011 is when most of the wars that's like low-key still going on in Chicago to this day, this is when that start cracking off. This is also around the time where I think April 2012, I was probably in 7th, 8th grade. I graduated 8th grade 2013, so I was in 7th grade right here. This around the time where I had just first started getting in the streets, like, you know what I'm saying, selling my little 1-2, doing my little 1 thing. I'm like 13 at this, 14, going on 14 at this time. You feel me? So maybe I don't know, but I was in middle school. You know what I'm saying? This is when, so I'm just getting to that point where I'm jumping off the porch. And this is when Chief Keef blowing up. You got FBG Duck blowing up. You got Billionaire them. You got P. Rico. You got Lil J. You got Dirk. You got Newski before he passed. You got Rondo in LA. You got all these niggas. Like, the whole Chicago scene is busting at this time. And the streets also busting too. That's low-key why the music was busting. Because the streets was busting. And so a lot of niggas from the city knew a lot about what niggas was saying, so they wanted to hear about that shit, and that's what blew it up. You get what I'm saying? On Brody.
2012, around 9:30 p.m., a 23-year-old man called Doc, or King Doc, real name Marlon Monroe, was walking near 63rd and St. Lawrence, the heart of STL's territory, when somebody opened fire as he was in front of the corner store, striking him once in the chest.
Right,
Doc
that corner
then
store,
tried
boy.
to escape his attackers across the road through a patch of tall weeds in an empty lot in the 6300 block of St. Lawrence, where he would ultimately succumb to his injuries, passing away on the spot. However, when police would come to investigate the reports of shots fired, they couldn't see Doc laying there in the tall weeds and leave him there. And it wasn't until Doc's relative, a teenage boy named Modell McCamry, would go through that empty lot on his way home hours later that he would actually stumble upon Doc's body. According to Doc's family, he had been going through a rough patch in his life and had recently been freed after doing
Bro, no, did y'all hear what he just said? They killed the man. The police responded to the shots fired. And because of the tall grass, they didn't see the nigga. His cousin went back over there, probably because he heard what happened, heard something happen, and went and started searching, looking through, and found him. So if this little boy found him, but the police couldn't find him, that's
seemingly also celebrating on his
okay.
social media. Doc had only recently begun getting his life together, getting his GED in prison, and now he wanted to get himself a painter's license to start making an honest living. In fact, the night he was killed, Doc had actually been at his aunt's property doing some maintenance, shortly before his life. Sure. However, Doc was also allegedly gang affiliated, particularly with the EBT set named after Eberhart Avenue, who were close with several other gang sets in the area, including STL, Gyro City, and MOB. People seemingly affiliated with these sets would also mourn Doc's death on their social media, some of them even seemingly alluding to knowing exactly who had killed Doc and vowing revenge. The police would also monitor on social media that members of
he
these
said,
gangs
I'm mad that I gave Shorty a pass. Next time your little is grass. Be in peace. EBT Doc. So he was probably from EBT
who
then.
had killed Doc and vowing revenge. The police would also monitor on social media that members of these gangs held Lamron and Brick City, which is an older name for 600's hood, responsible for Doc's murder. But on the other hand, in 2013, MOB Beans would tweet how he was about to do his ops like Wick, the former name of O-Block, had done to
Do him
Doc.
like the Wick did Doc. So he probably trying to say on Junebug, I'm about to do him like O-Block did Doc.
Now, despite there not being many hard facts that are publicly known about the suspect, online Chiracologists on Reddit, who follow the Chicago drill scene closely, have theorized that T.Roy may well be the most likely culprit in the murder of Doc. This is seemingly based on factors like T.Roy being known for aiming to the chest and for killing affiliates that weren't directly involved in the many beasts that O-Block had. There are also claims that EBT had been talking about catching T.Roy on Facebook immediately following the death of Doc, but ultimately this murder remained unsolved, despite many people believing that this killing may well have been carried out by a group of shooters from O-Block, which included both King Von and T.Roy.
T.Roy and
Interestingly,
Von.
King Von would start a Twitter account in the months that followed this murder, where he would seemingly tweet openly about his friendship with T.Roy and their activities in the streets together, saying that they shoot people like it's nothing, and tweeting openly that he will kill. With this sort of thing,
I'll whack your shooter, act like it's nothing. And if his mouth moving, my gun dance. Dissing us what you ain't got sense or something.
casually being
2012.
tweeted by Von and T.Roy, it's no surprise then that within a matter of months they would both be suspected of yet another murder in the neighborhood.
Dirty
In the
Rell.
early morning hours of August the 8th, 2012, a 28-year-old man named Rell Joshua, known on the streets as Dirty Rell, was at the corner of 56th and Wabash. Here, he was shot several times.
56 and Wabash, so that's a little minute away.
Finding Rell
56 and Wabash is a little minute away from like where O-Block, but it's not far though. But like O-Block and f***ing EBT, Gyro and STL, O-Block, them all different gangs on different blocks on the same street. You see what I'm saying? So it's like King Drive, you on 63rd really, it's all 63rd, King Drive, Burning, got Eberhard, St. Lawrence, you feel me? So this Wabash, 50, what do you say, 56 and Wabash, this probably like a cool maybe like 10-minute-ish drive.
motionless on the ground, where he was then taken to hospital and pronounced dead around 4 a.m. Like Doc, Rell was affiliated with some of the gangs in this area, such as STL and Gyro City, and members of these gangs would mourn his death on social media after his passing. But Rell was even older than Doc, and he had seemingly moved away from this area in Chicago some years ago to the city of Peoria, around 2.5 hours drive from where he was killed. It's unclear why Rell was in Chicago the night of his murder, or exactly who killed him, but once again, T.Roy's name would become attached to the case, as would King Von's, who would
Homicide and
ominously
L
post the
smell
previous
like
night
a grave. Y'all, Sixth Instinct, both trying to play. Go to.
how there was a smell of homicide in the air, implying that Von may well have been driving around looking for Opps that very night, and then posting the next night, within hours of Rell being shot, showing that Von was indeed awake at the time of the murder. Once again, also D. Rose from 600, who was known to slide with O-Block, was connected to this case as part of a theory in the legendary Chirac wiki, with it believing that D. Rose himself assisted in the murder. Now, while it's not clear exactly who shot Rell, it seems that his friends thought that this murder was indeed done by O-Block, because the very next night they would exact their revenge. That night, on the 8th of August, an O-Block
very
member
next
by
night.
the name of Whitey, or Whitey, real name
White,
Tony
White.
Dunn, was hanging out with King Von around O-Block, where they were celebrating Von's upcoming birthday.
Now, this is what I heard turn King Von into a savage, is when White died. And T.Roy, I'm pretty sure it's pictures of T.Roy saying like Whitey World, and it was like a lot of Whitey World, rest in peace Whitey. Like Whitey, I think Whitey was one of them niggas like everybody on the block liked him. It seemed like, you feel me? Everybody on the block with bro. Like close, heavy. He probably didn't looked out for niggas all the time. I think he was a little older than Von and them. But when he died, I heard that's what made Von really jump off the porch. And you feel me? He was really active after that. And he was doing a lot of he was doing with T.Roy.
Real name Tony Dunn was hanging out with King Von around O-Block, where they were celebrating Von's upcoming birthday. Von would enter a store near the apartment complex, while Whitey would wait outside.
And this is the old,
celebrating
the
Von's
old
upcoming
King
birthday.
Drive.
Von would
So this is what it used to look like. It don't look nothing like this right now because they closed down this Walgreens and they closed down this McDonald's. This laundromat probably still there. That little restaurant right across the street, it's been like 10 different restaurants. But O-Block is right here. So O-Block is right on the other side of this Walgreens. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know what the fuck. I ain't been in the city in a minute. I don't know what this is now. But when I was still in the city, 2020-ish, this Walgreens was closed down. This McDonald's been closed down. They been boarded this up.
Enter a store near the
They smoked in that
Whitey would
bitch.
wait outside. Unfortunately, it was there when Whitey was shot to death by a member of Gyro City called 50 Shot, who was then caught by the police
50
right near
Shot.
the scene of the murder, even shooting it out with the cops. It would take over 10 years for justice to finally be delivered in this case, as in 2023, 50 Shot would finally be sentenced for the murder of Whitey.
115 years. That's crazy.
Murders of the police officers who arrested him, with him
Oh, that's
receiving
why. Because he got into a shootout with the police. That's what he f***ed up at. That's why he got 115.
whopping 115-year sentence. As I've discussed in length in my video, King Von, Rap's first serial killer, this was a moment that would make King Von yearn for revenge. After the death of White, Von begun a determined sliding campaign with the goal.
White got killed on my birthday. I just bought that man a pill. He was on my... I went to the store, heard gunshots, nigga ran out the store. I see folks now tweaking crowd around Whitey. He got hit one time. He looked like he was straight though on O, but man.
Of killing all of O Block's ops, and Von would later rap on his song Demon that it was literally witnessing Whitey's murder that turned
Whitey got killed. That's saying I was right there. Still can't believe turned me to a demon.
to a demon, motivating him to commit numerous murders. And as Von would often discuss, his number-one partner during this campaign to kill was his best friend, T.Roy, and soon they would seemingly
tag team champions of the world right there, boy.
The first man that Von and the second that T.Roy had allegedly killed.
Modell. Yeah.
About 2 months after the death of Dirty Rell and Whitey, Modell McCamry, who had found his relative Doc dead earlier that year, was walking with his friends on the street in STL's territory. A gunman would approach them on foot and begin shooting at Modell. At this point, his cousin Miles Turner would heroically attempt to shield Modell with his own body, also ending up getting shot.
That's
miraculously end up surviving the incident.
That's just some soldier ass shit to get in front of. I think he said his cousin. Got in front of his little cousin and tried to shield that nigga. That's some honorable shit on bro.
Despite being confined to a wheelchair, as was seen in a media piece about him where he met former governor of Illinois, Pat Quinn, to talk about surviving gang violence. Unfortunately, despite his heroic attempts to shield his cousin, Modell would end up losing his life.
Modell still died.
Determined that the shooting had indeed been gang-related as part of the ongoing rivalry between O-Block, Orwick City, and STL, which Modell was allegedly affiliated with. This time, police were even able to figure out 2 specific suspects, one of these being King Von, real name Davon Bennett, who they determined to be the shooter, accompanied by T.Roy, who had allegedly been at the scene with Von. Unfortunately, due to many witnesses refusing to speak with the investigators,
that's what it be too in Chicago. Witnesses ain't saying nothing.
Would ultimately not be charged for this murder. They would continue to torment their ops on social media, seemingly
Boss Trell. Now this Boss Trell, I heard was T.Roy and Von. Put it easy like, oh that's Roosevelt I think. Simple and easy like that. Boss Trell was T.Roy and Von. From what I know, living in Chicago, being raised in Chicago my whole life, high school, middle school, elementary school, nigga. After high school, like I was in the rack, nigga. 2012, around this time, I think I had just turned 14. I'm almost certain that this is T.Roy and Von work.
8th, 2012, not even a month after the murder of Modell,
Boss
another
Trell.
STL member would be found in critical condition in the Wrightwood neighborhood in the far southwest side of Chicago. This time, it was a 17-year-old Rodney Stewart, better known in the streets as Boss Trell from STL, who had been shot once in the back of the head and was found dead in a gangway with a Glock handgun tucked underneath his body. Only a few hours before being found, Boss Trell had made a tweet stating that he was going back to sleep. So if he was going back to bed, how did he end up shot outside next to houses that he seemingly had no connection to? This shooting was actually heard by several residents in the area, but only a few had seen anything. But one of
So wait, how the did that happen? Don't let me find out that nigga T.Roy and Von popped out the cut, killed Boss Trell, took his phone and tweeted on his phone talking about I'm finna go back to sleep. Cause how the he talking about he finna go back to sleep and then die? Don't that sound like a nigga trolling, like finna go back to sleep, put the phone back, dip out of there? Am I tweaking? If they did if they did that right there, that's some demon shit. That's some savage shit right there.
spotted a thin-billed man with an average height wearing a white sweater running away from the scene. Another witness had seen a black van driving away from the scene, as well as another man wearing a hoodie, carrying a backpack, and running while yelling for help. While the police were trying to piece together what had happened from these tiny tidbits of information, Boss Trell had been rushed to hospital, where he would continue to fight for his life. Later that morning, Boss Trell's friend began reacting to the news of him being in hospital, and soon FBG Cash would post a picture on Twitter of himself holding Boss Trell's hand. And he would also post several tweets that sounded like threats and antagonism towards the people that he believed had shot Boss Trell, where he said that he was about to go nuts and turn the streets into a gun range. Only a few minutes later, T.Roy and King Von would begin a tweet storm of their own.
Wait, what happened?
Streets into a gun range.
So this is 11 o'clock in the morning, November 8th.
Only a few
And then 12:30 that same day.
minutes later, T.Roy and
Man
King Von
down.
would begin a tweet
LOL
storm of
the
their own,
struggle.
where they both heartlessly mocked Boss Trell, as well as seemingly implying that they had something to do with his shooting. With T.Roy tweeting "Man down," Von tweeting "LOL the struggle." T.Roy would even tweet "F him, die slow," and going on to reference the infamous true crime reality show First 48, suggesting that he had just First 48'd his victim. King Von would then follow up with another heartless tweet saying that his ops aren't dying on time, a reference to Boss Trell's status in hospital. And then T.Roy himself would reference the situation mockingly, tweeting "No Trell, stay alive." Unfortunately, later that night, Boss Trell would pass away from his injuries. But still, even the next day, King Von would continue to taunt STL, claiming that STL really stood
STL
for
stands for steady taking
losses,
L.
as well as referencing Boss Trell
LOL, you
directly,
ain't a boss to
tweeting,
me.
"He ain't a boss to him." Tragically, it would later be reported that Boss Trell seemingly knew that he was in danger in Chicago, and that he'd even had plans to move to Iowa, where he had a lead on a new job. In fact, the very night he shot, he had already had a bus ticket bought to get out of town. His very much warranted, because Boss Trell himself was rumored to be a known shooter, with many believing that he had killed for his gang too, particularly T.Roy from O'Block. That same reporting would then make claims that many around Trell, including his girlfriend, as well as the detectives investigating the death, actually knew who'd done it, but without credible witnesses, including Trell's girlfriend, who said that she didn't feel comfortable talking about people she thought were involved, they ultimately couldn't bring any charges. But given that Von and T.Roy were heavily implying their involvement in the murder on social media, it would be no surprise that the internet would also begin to think they must have had something to do with the murder. Images would even circulate of a photo that T.Roy shared showing his Timberland boots covered in blood, with the implication that the blood may well have belonged to Boss Trell. These rumors were further fueled by people close to O'Block and STL, who would seemingly admit that Von and T.Roy were those responsible.
Bro, this nigga posted a picture in some bloody Timbs after he killed Boss Trell? What the f?
Blood may well have belonged to Boss Trell. These rumors were later further fueled by people close to O'Block and STL, who would seemingly admit
King
that
Von and T.Roy did allegedly kill.
Von allegedly killed Trell, him and T.Roy.
That's been a
streets, no, and on
I'm finna say that's been the words on the streets though. Like this happened in 2012, bro. That was 12 years ago. It's just now niggas know who King Von is, and they hearing T.Roy and all these Chicago niggas, you know what I'm saying, turning into interviewers and YouTubers, which I feel like I helped pay the way for that. Let's start there. You feel me? Let's start there. I feel like I helped pave the way for Chicago niggas to come on YouTube. I'm just saying. But on the guys though, the streets been new, like Mama Duck said.
people who did.
And Mama Duck with my videos too. What up, Mama Duck?
So that's why I'm saying the legend.
He got what he caught that quick. He caught, nigga. He was listen to his raps. Like he was really like telling y'all what he was doing and like how he go like he'd change his shoes. He catching before he even hit school. Like he caught Trell. Some goofy ass was on my podcast telling me he ain't boy on God on OD Soul. Boss Trell is folks' work. Like, stop that. Like, that was folks' work. He did that.
People would point out that Von and T.Roy had
Me and
seen
T.Roy
him
had traffic with
Chicago
BOS,
the night
homie.
leading up to the morning that Trell was found. However, there were also other suspects from O-Block, particularly next year in 2013, after a well-respected O-Block member called J Money, real name Jerome Wood, was ultimately killed.
Yeah, I remember when J
Following
Money
that murder,
died.
friends of Boss Trell would tweet saying RIP to Boss Trell, insinuating that it may have been J Money who had been the trigger man, with them celebrating his passing.
I heard
Then,
J Money
the
was a
following
savage
year,
too, boy.
2014, STL member FBG Young would post a tweet that seemingly implied that Boss Trell had died due to some kind of betrayal taking place. Then, in 2015, another good friend of Boss Trell, rapper FBG Duck, who was also Boss Trell's cousin, would rap in his song,
I know
My
they was
Homies,
cousins.
that it was actually a girl who had betrayed Trell and caused his death. This would seemingly match with the earlier reporting of Boss Trell's aunt blaming his girlfriend for not cooperating with the police. The rumor regarding a girl setting Boss Trell up would eventually develop into a completely new direction. According to this rumor, Trell used to leave his guns at a girl's house, but that girl had a brother who ended up taking the gun. gun. This brother was part of a gang called Quiet Money, who apparently controlled the area around where Boss Trell was found shot. On the morning of his death, he had supposedly gone to get a gun back from the brother, but this would ultimately wind up with him getting killed, with this story being substantiated by people who were close to the situation, such as EBTBG.
Trell, BT, the Opps didn't do that. They didn't do that. STL didn't get no get back for BT. But anyway, he got wrapped up in some trying to go get his pipe back that his brother then took from him. Like I say, everybody took guns from STL.
This rumor hasn't been proven to be true either, and the murder of Boss Trell is still an open case. It's important to mention that there's never been any definitive proof exactly who was the girl that supposedly set Boss Trell up, and what exactly was her role in this supposed setup. Many have naturally accused Boss Trell's supposed girlfriend, but there have been multiple women in his life, which was something his supposed girlfriend had also implied. So we may never know who did it, but regardless of exactly who it was, if the tweets were anything to go by, to Von and T.Roy, the murder and death of their rivals was just an everyday activity, and with that in mind, it would only be a matter of time before they indeed killed again.
I don't even like.
On the 19th of November 2012,
this is
about
like
10
all
days
in the
after Boss
same.
Trell had passed.
This is 10 days later, y'all. This is like, this is what I be saying. Like, these niggas had a lot of bodies, bro. Especially together, or you know what I'm saying. Like, these niggas had a whole bus load of bodies that dropped. Like, honestly, if you really want to talk about it, O Block, Lamron, STL, EBT, Gyro, them, all them niggas, any hood period, like, it's really not a lot of niggas that's really sliding. Like, don't get that f***ed up. Usually out of every hood, it's probably, I say, anywhere between 2 to 5, but it's always a top like 2 of like f***ed up to say. It's always like a big 3 there, or a dynamic duo out here just catching bodies. It's usually like that, you know what I'm saying? It's usually like every hood got a few niggas that really get like that. Then you got some niggas that get like that sometime, and then most niggas just be out there and they would get like that, but they don't. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot of niggas that really active in the streets, but they ain't as out here like with 6, 7, 8 bodies, 3 bodies, and they might have robbed a nigga here and there. They might have, you know what I'm saying, shot at somebody, got shot at, this, that, third. But there ain't a lot of niggas out there that's really pressing the gas, really, you know what I'm saying? So, when you see a nigga like T.Roy or a nigga like Bond, and you see murder 10 days after when they supposed to have killed Trell, now 10 days later they go kill UV, and 3 months later they go kill it. When it get like that, dumb, that's usually how it be, bro. But I'm gonna keep reacting to this in a part 2, so y'all stay tuned on phone now. I'm gonna react to the whole hour documentary, so y'all stay tuned on Bro Grade. Y'all know I'm giving that real, you know what I'm saying, ski.